Welcome to Epic Begins with One Step Forward, the podcast that reveals how to plan, achieve, and enjoy the journey of creating epic results in your life, business, health, and relationships. Here's your host, best-selling author and motivational speaker, Xander Sprague.
Hello, Epic people, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Epic Begins with One Step Forward. I'm your host, Xander Sprague, and today I'm so honored to be joined by Marianne Hickman. Marianne, tell us who you are and what you do.
Oh, man. You know what? Every time I get asked to do that, I come up with something different because we're just evolving beings. So I do publicly, this is outside the home. Publicly, I teach public speaking. I facilitate speakers who want to be more than a speaker. They want to be a facilitator. So we craft their stories. We build a business out of it. And that's super fun. That's epic. I'm probably going to say that way too much. But that comes second to being a wife and mom. And you want to be homesteader, I guess you could say. And so those two parts of my life create my favorite harmony and my favorite music.
Awesome. That's great. Well, I could say as a professional speaker myself for over, 25 years that I totally appreciate people who want to help, fellow speakers be better, craft their story, because it's not easy,
No, it's not. But it takes a lot of, here's what I found. So you've seen this in the industry. There's the professional speakers that they're all that in a bag of chips and they believe it and they don't want any critique because it's hard. It's hard for us to take feedback on our keynotes and it's hard to look at ourselves in the mirror and it's hard to watch our old cringe footage, as they say, right?
Absolutely.
That's difficult. But then there's the speakers that are like you and me, and we're just going into every room. We put our presentation out. We do our best. And then the first thing we say when we're off stage is, how did I do? What could I do better? That's the kind of people I really love to work with.
Yeah, no, I mean, it is hard because what I want to hear is all the stuff I did well. One thing that I did, I could improve in. I don't want the person really loved your story. But you could do this, and then I'm like, wow, I feel my gentle ego or big ego feels attacked at like all I heard one good thing and lots of stuff that I could improve versus you did all this stuff well and, this could be better. That story was great, but it was too long. Okay, great. No problem. I love that feedback. So,
yeah, well, it comes into this duality, doesn't it? So when we get off stage and we as speakers are hungry for feedback because we know we want to do better, we feel like we nailed it, right? There's that portion of us that's like, okay, I did the good that I was supposed to do. I served the people that I was supposed to serve. I want to do it better. I'm going to ask for feedback. And then there's the unsolicited givers of feedback. And so that's probably the hardest feedback to take, I would say, is the feedback that we didn't ask for. And we have to put it through this filter of, does this feedback tell me that I'm moving in the right direction, or does this feedback sting a little bit? And is that something I maybe need to look at? And
absolutely.
A lot of times, like at this unsolicited feedback, it can fall into both of those categories. And if we didn't ask for it, then you have to put it through this, okay, do I take this with a grain of salt, or am I actually on the right track?
Right. And I guess the, mental health provider in me goes, now I'm curious to know why they gave me that feedback, right? Like, let me look at their motivation. Is it coming from a place of genuine, I want to help you improve? Or is it someone who, for whatever reason, is jealous that I was the one on stage or whatever. And that does help, right? Yes. Feedback is certainly important. And the days I get to speak are great days. They really are. I love being on stage. I joke all the time that that's my hit, my fix,
Yep, I feel you on that. Oh, it is such a riot.
When I get it. And then one thing I wanted to sort of transition into, because I'm sure you've experienced it, I'm always honored to have the chance to present. But big caveat here.
I call that the big fat butt.
The big fat butt, is now people want to do stuff virtually.
Uh-huh.
And although I mean, look, I'm always honored to be asked, but it is hard. I've been fortunate to be asked to do a couple of keynotes that I now have to record ahead of time with just me doing a keynote. And part of what I get, part of my juice, is I'm in front of an audience. I can see how they're reacting. I'm still struggling. I put humor into what I'm talking about. But without the audience feedback, I don't know how long to pause for. I've just said something that I know is funny. People are going to laugh, right? So then you're like, okay, if I don't pause long enough, now people are still laughing and don't hear what I'm saying. Or if I pause too long, they think something happened, like I, had a stroke or I had a technical issue or whatever. And you don't get that feedback that you and I are talking about, like, how's the crowd reacting? Ooh, they're into what I'm doing. Ah, great. That's awesome. Or as you're telling, you're in the first part of your speech and you're like, ooh, I don't know if I have the audience. Now let me flip this. Let me do this. Let me, tweak this. You don't have that virtually. Or if you get to do a Zoom meeting, and there's 60 people and they're all sitting there with what I call Zoom face.
It's like the AI generated face. It's just
I'm telling you,
10
like,
seconds.
I literally, I was giving one and people were just, I'm like, folks, please, like, smile, do something. Everyone is just slack faced. It's really hard.
Oh man. Now, I would say that's one of the hardest presentations to do, especially for experienced speakers, is when nobody is in the digital room. It's a pre-recorded thing. That's one of the most challenging things. You feel like you're kind of narrating an audiobook
Yeah.
in one way, or one of the things that I guess beat this into or out of me or whatever. I went through the military training version of this, right? I started recording YouTube videos probably 8 years ago. I forget how old my channel is because I took a break for a while. When I was recording YouTube videos, oh my gosh, that was so hard because all I have now, I had the luxury of having a director in the room, but my director wasn't even engaged with me. He was disengaged. And I think at first he was checking lights and sound and audio and just making sure all the technical pieces were there. But then I would watch him disengage and just swipe on his phone. And then we would finish that video. He was like, oh, you're done. Let's go to the next one. And that should have been a clue to me that I was very boring because I couldn't even engage the people that were in the same person that was in the same room as
Yeah.
me. But that helped me develop through a lot of reps, a relationship with the camera. Now, I'm not going to say I'm an expert because I can always improve. I'm a student of it. I'm a student of everything, really. But the relationship with the camera, when you can engage the invisible person on the other side, this is just expert storytelling. And you're right. There's a lot of parts of the audience interaction that we can assume. Oh, there's a laugh track here because this one has historically proven to be funny. Or,
Right.
there's a moment of pause here to
Let it settle.
contemplate. Yeah, like Maxwell says, let the internal voice do the talking.
Yep.
But when you're pre-recorded, I think we lose some of those luxuries. We lose the luxury of the power pause in many cases.
Yeah.
We lose the luxury of type a 1 in the chat or raise your hand on camera or whatever. And we have to assume the audience is with us. And this is the hardest part when we do this. For me, my biggest pieces of feedback for myself when I watch my old stuff, especially pre-recorded stuff, I'm thinking of like what you just said. I try to be funny. I look back on those videos and I look like a drill sergeant. I'm so unfunny and I'm so you. And I'm just embarrassed at my own previous work. I need to do react videos to my old stuff because it's so bad.
Yeah.
But I'm glad I got the reps in because now at least, when I record a podcast episode, it's just a solo episode. It's me and the camera. I can have a lot more fun with it than I used to. Although, again, I still have stuff to work on.
It's a lot. I started another podcast a while ago and really great podcast. Haven't done anything with it lately, but still up there, which is like, I every month I see, I see the bill come. I'm like, well, it's a good podcast. There's good content. I'll keep it up, but I was starting off and I was doing it myself. And even though I can talk for hours on end, It is so much harder when it's just you and the mic, and if you have a camera and no interaction. That's why I love doing the podcast. I have someone to vibe with, have a conversation. Because if I had someone on, we were talking for a half hour. If it was just me, I was struggling for 15 minutes. And again, I am a speaker because I love being in front of people. I love that interaction. I know my speech. I know what I'm going to say. I tweak every single one. They're not the same. Yes, there's the same, same story here, whatever. Sometimes you have the audience and they're so into what you're saying and you get really amped up and it's your energy goes up. Other times you're like, wow, I am losing the people and stuff. Now here's another question, and I will admit it's not a good habit, but as a
Let's hear
speaker, okay, you're sitting in the audience and you see a not so good speaker.
Oh man,
Does it become so distracting because you're like, oh my gosh, like you're pacing around like a caged animal. Like your PowerPoints have 52, there's 52 points on your PowerPoint. You're like, oh my God. No. Like, I don't want to do it, but I'm like, I totally stop listening to what they're saying and pay attention to all of the stuff that is unfortunately not going as well for that person.
oh yeah,
It's not a good thing to say, but I'm like, as a professional speaker, I'm like, oh wow, dude, please. Like, stop pacing around so much.
Hold still for the love. I do find myself doing this. I call this, I put a name to it. It's the backstage pass of events.
Yeah.
When you put yourself in the green room, even though I'm not saying physically, don't invade any green rooms uninvited.
No, of course not. But
like mentally, right? We're there. And I watched it was actually a school group that I was in. It was the moderator of the group saying, when I show my students and I'm teaching my students, I've decided that I want to show them examples of what to do or wonderful examples of a website that I really admire and really like. And then my brain went to this different spot. I'm going to take you on this train, but I promise I'll loop back.
No, that's fine.
I was watching a documentary. I'm a huge documentary nerd. If there's a documentary, I'll watch it. And I was watching a documentary on the counterfeit of currency, the dollar bills and stuff.
Yep.
And what they do for people who they're training to spot counterfeits is they don't show them counterfeit currency.
Mm-hmm.
They don't say, this is a counterfeit, this is how you can tell. They don't do that. They just sit them down with the authentic, real stuff. They can get the feel for the cloth and the cotton and the feel for the imprinting and so forth. And so when we go to a public speaking convention, I was just over at NSA down in Arizona. It was an incredible event.
I'm a member of NSA.
Okay, so you know the people. Were you there in Arizona a couple weeks ago?
No, I wasn't.
Okay.
But I've been to. Was that the national convention?
Yeah, the influence convention, right?
Yeah, I've been to that, and it is awesome and intimidating.
Oh, that's perfectly put. Perfectly put, because we're in a room with our peers who we know. We're all sitting in this audience, and subconsciously, we all know that the backstage pass is turned on, and we are critiquing each other.
It's much like you want to be a speaker on the stage, but you're like, I also don't want to be in front of 2,000 of my peers who all know every mistake I make.
Yeah, we're all trained, and we've all practiced this, and we've all looked for the filler words and the stage pacing and the notes and the eye contact and all of these little...
modulation of the story and the energy up and the energy down and
the audience interaction and all of these points, right? And so that gets back to the psychology of speaking, regardless of whether you've trained in this or not, or whether you're in a room of speakers or when you're not. We're all human beings, all of us.
Mm-hmm.
Back to the basic level, we are all exposed to human psychology. Behaviors are basically predictable. So when we speak in front of people, or when you and I are in the audience and we're watching a speaker on stage, it is hard to not be distracted by things that we have worked so hard to train out of ourselves, because that's what we do. We spotted that in ourselves and now we see it in someone else. But that's where we take out the admission pass, the audience pass. And am I in my audience seat and can I learn? or am I in my backstage pass? Am I switching back and forth during the keynote of, wow, I really liked how they did that. And maybe I want to take a page from their book, or, hey, maybe this didn't work for them, but what can I learn?
Mm-hmm.
That's what, at my best, and I'm not always at my best, but when I'm at my best and I see the ums and the uhs and all of these things, I consciously say, listen, let me put the backstage pass down for a second and say, is there something in their content that I can learn? Is there something in their content that, unless I could teach it, I need to learn more about it, right?
Absolutely.
So what do
But
they,
there's
what do
also there are also you and I have seen the ones that are you can't put down the backstage pass because you're trying to, but
they?
but you're like I just oh my gosh, and again, I used to work in high tech and unbelievably brilliant people. Sometimes public speaking was really not in their wheelhouse, but they had to get up and do stuff, and then you're like, oh, that's wow.
Yeah.
That's challenging.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that didn't land.
That didn't and again, it is something I am always working on going, I am an audience member. I'm here to listen, to support, but like anything, if you are working on your expertise in something, it's kind of like if you're a nurse and you're watching some movie or a medical show and you're like, no, now I'm distracted because you that's not how you would do that.
You should see my husband watching NCIS. He's a digital forensic analyst, and
Yeah.
every time Abby pulls something up on the computer, he's like, that's not how that works.
No, I know. And again, you don't want to do it, but you're like, no, that's and I want to suspend some, like I'll give some grace, but that only goes so far sometimes where you're like, oh wow, this is so bad. I just I want to listen to the content, but I can't,
I was watching I was watching a politician. There's a popular video, I think it was from in the early 2000s. I can't remember exactly when. It was a politician who was at a rally and trying to garnish votes, as politicians do. And against my own counsel of only showing the best to my students, I showed this as a contrast. So I pulled up this video, and this politician, I turned off the sound.
Mm-hmm.
And I just had had my members look at the body language, and there was a lot of scowling and a lot of anger and a lot of really aggressive body language.
Mm-hmm.
And without the sound, I asked my students, hey, so what do you think he's talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Would you want to follow him?
Mm-hmm.
Would you want to vote for him, which is his
Mm-hmm.
ultimate call to action and so forth?
Mm-hmm.
And then I turned on the sound and turned off the video and pulled the transcript. The tone and the words, I separated them. I had the transcript, then I had the tone. And I pulled up the transcript, and he was actually delivering this amazing quote by Albert Einstein about the times that try men's souls, and it could have been delivered so eloquently. And then I turned on the audio, and it was just so aggressive, yelling, screaming. And so I asked my students, what is the purpose of his message? And of course, it was obvious. It was to try to garnish votes, try to get followers. And I said, the bomb-dropping question, was this effective? Did he accomplish what he came here to do? And they said, absolutely not, because none of this matched. So, it's hard when you see a speaker on stage and the delivery doesn't match the intention.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when, given if you feel it in your gut and if they're open to it, there is my first thought is, what do I do about this? Do I say nothing? And maybe that's the appropriate answer. Or do I go up and say, hey, how do you think that went? Tell me about your speech. What was your intention for the delivery? Tell me how you thought it went and see how it goes from there. I always like to enter with curiosity if I'm offering a critique, because we as human beings, we tend to defend the ego and throw up walls. And so if I'm ever offering a critique, it comes with curiosity first of, how do you think that went?
Absolutely. And I talk all the time, and I get curious. And if there's something I don't understand, but I want to, but I'm obviously aware that asking the question could get someone defensive, I literally start off with, I am getting curious. Marianne, when you said this, because I'm hoping that what that says is I am not coming in with battle armor on. I'm not attacking you. I'm curious. And I tell my mental health patients that I work with, I'm like, they're having an issue. They're coming to me because there's some challenge that they're facing. I go, get curious about that. Think about why that is. Why is this person reacting this way? How are you reacting to them, right? And I go, and use the word curious, because it can sound that you're attacking. But if you say, no, I'm curious, I'm going to ask questions because I want to understand. And I said, and they still may get defensive because they're protecting their ego. And you go, no, 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 pay attention to all of that. I think in this day and age, sadly, and I'm going to sound like an old man here, I really am. And, in my day, but I think with people younger than me and probably younger than you, with the advent of all the cell phones and the texting and, 1 second interactions and stuff, that art of interpersonal communication and understanding nonverbal cues and all of that is sadly getting lost. And that makes it harder. When I was growing up, if I wanted to say something mean to you, I had to say it to your face, or I might write a note, but you'd know it was from me. I might do a phone call, but again, you'd know it was me, right? So now I could send you a text, email, or whatever, and go, you can't speak to save your life or something. I could say something horribly mean and destructive. And I don't see the reaction. I don't see how that lands with you. I have no skin in that game other than to throw something out there. And I did my internship in a high school and a middle school, right? So
wow.
Yeah.
Tough
And
crowd.
a very tough crowd, especially to get them to talk about their feelings and stuff like that. However, I just noticed this inability to actually have interpersonal interactions and pick up on, and I talked about nonverbal clues because I'm like, we are so highly evolved, we can see how someone is reacting to what we're saying. Are they smiling? Are they scowling? Are they burning a hole through your head with their eyes?
No, it's so true, man. It reminds me of this experience I had on Instagram, because this is like social media, like you said, we hide behind our keyboards and it's really easy to do, right? And I approached it with this curiosity. Now, I tend to be a little bit outspoken when it comes to what I believe and
I
my
find
truth.
that so hard to believe.
Shocking, right? But I also don't want to be a butthole about it. Someone yesterday called me a pod pastor, and I was like, I like that. I will take that and wear it. That's cute. But I was on a political post yesterday, and Simon Sinek kept running through my head about what you just said about curiosity.
Mm-hmm.
What would happen if we were curious? And I made a post or a comment on a post. I didn't wear any kitten gloves or anything. I just put it out there. And someone came back at me really aggressively, like, it's no surprise. And so instead of fighting back at them and saying, no, it's this way, no, it's this way, no, it's this way, we were talking about the existence of God, of all things. And I started to just ask them questions. And I said, okay, well, you said this. Tell me about this. I think it went into the realm of, like, if you said we come from nothing and go back into nothing, is that the same or different as we came from God, so we go back to God? Like, help me understand your perspective on this. And dude, we went on for probably 5 days just commenting back and forth. I'm sure the post owner loved our interaction, right? But dude, Xander, it came to this point at the very end where I wasn't seeking I wasn't curious just to look curious. I really wanted to know where this person was coming from. I really wanted to understand. And by the end of it, the walls had gone down. I've never met this person before in my life, but the walls came down. And by the end of this back and forth, he was saying, thank you for listening to me. Thank you for the opportunity for me to look into some self-discovery. I'm going to have to read this article that you said. And he sent me some articles, and I said the same thing, and even went so far as to other strangers on the internet that read our back and forth. I'm getting goosebumps right now. Strangers that we don't know were commenting on our conversation on this random post that said, thank you for showing humanity, that we can love and be curious and disagree amicably and come together. This was a conversation that, I quote, restored my faith in humanity. And I thought, I look at these goosebumps, man, like them growing hair fast. The way that we do this, I mean, as speakers, back to your point of the audience interaction, that's what we crave most, is this back and forth, this dialogue.
Absolutely.
Where we just want to know each other.
Right. And I'll just jump back quickly to doing the virtual keynotes.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I don't get there, I don't get the applause at the end. I don't get to come off stage and have people go, "Oh, wow, that's really good." Maybe afterwards there's like a discussion or something so people can write some, but I'm like, okay, it's not the same.
No.
And
No,
again,
it's not.
If you're listening and you want to hire me, I will do, but they're so much harder because part of why we do it is that interaction. How is the audience interacting with what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I can't, in a virtual keynote, I can't adapt. Maybe I'm losing the audience. If I were live, I'd be able to maybe pull them back. Maybe they're loving what I'm doing and saying, and you want to know what? Okay, I'm going to throw one more super quick story because you like that story. I'll throw this one in, but I do totally agree that the curiosity, and there are obviously things, politics and religion, the two things that you really shouldn't discuss because but you should be able to, as you said, amicably disagree.
Yeah.
Respectfully. And I also think, like you, I get curious. I'm like, I don't understand that position, but I want to, because it helps me become a better person, perhaps more tolerant, and go, oh, I didn't understand that. Look, just human nature. We get scared of things that we don't know.
Mm-hmm.
As the world changes, and I'll bring something up that has sort of been a challenging point for kind of both sides, and that is the added number of personal identifications that we now have out in the world.
Oh yeah, the alphabet.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And having worked with teenagers who were struggling with identity, as many teenagers do, how do I see myself? How do I want to define myself? And I remember talking with one client who identified as pansexual.
Mm-hmm.
And that, if you don't know what that if people don't know what that means, that simply means someone who loves another person for who they are, no matter how that person identifies. So that means that I could identify as bisexual, but this other person identifies as gender neutral or gender fluid or whatever. But I love this person for who they are, no matter what label they put on themselves. Well, that's a great thing. But the client of mine's like, I'm so tired of having to constantly describe exactly what this is. And I said, that is the burden of when you introduce something new. People people get scared of what they don't know. And I said, with all of these new labels that are out there, I think that's great. However, people don't know what it means. That client's mom called me and said, look, I'm really supportive, but can you help me understand exactly what this is? And I seem to have a knack for, let me take something complex and let me put it into a relatable term. And I said, look, there are nuances here. Think of it this way. There's 60% dark cocoa and 82% dark cocoa chocolate.
Uh-huh.
You know they're different, but you would be hard-pressed to say what the differences were. This one's a little more bitter. This one, smoother. This one, there's a difference. But if you were asked, hey, Marianne, what's the difference between them? You might be really hard-pressed to come up with a reasonable explanation, if that makes sense. I said,
Well, excluding the percentages, I would say, well, this one's 60 and this one's 80.
yeah.
But if I had to not use numbers, I would, in describing the flavor, the mouthfeel,
Yeah.
it's an experience.
Yeah, it's intellectually, that it's different, but you can't really, and I said, and that's sort of where we are. There's a difference, but there's these subtleties in these new terms. But I got curious because I didn't know. I'm old enough that I'm like, I don't know what that is, and how is that different from this, So I had the opportunity to get curious, and I said to my client, look, I'm curious. I want to know. I want to help you, but I understand a little, but I want to understand more. And I think any new concept people get, then we're scared to change. Kind of makes sense. Kind of a survival thing. Hey, is that dangerous?
Yeah, that's the question. I think that's the question in everybody's mind with this new term or this unknown, whatever it is. Is this a threat? Am I in danger? Is it dangerous? What is this? What does this mean for our interactions?
Look at AI. Let's take something a little less, charged than, personal identification. AI, is it good, or is it like the beginning of the Terminator and, who knows?
Yeah,
I'm curious, so I want to learn more. I want to learn how can AI make my life a little better? Are there tasks that I could have an AI? And I am using it because there's stuff that's really good. Our podcast, I'll have AI generate some podcast titles.
Yeah.
Give me an episode description versus me trying to come up with something, right?
Well, and this has been something, speaking of AI, that's been, I was just talking to my husband, Richard, as we're on the way to the gym, and I said, I think there's something that AI will never, ever, 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 ever be able to do. And it's not public speaking, because there is a public speaker that I found that is an AI robot, and she's on tour. The robot is on tour. The robot has its own Instagram account, all of this crazy stuff. And I was like, okay, so a robot is now replacing motivational speakers, or is, getting asked to speak or whatever. But AI will never, ever, 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 ever to be able to be a human.
No.
It will be able to intake data, export data, left, right, and center. It can play soccer, whatever it is. But an AI will never, ever, ever be able to be human, which means, especially in the world of speaking, it's funny how, let's take a broader perspective, not just speaking, all business. I think there's an undercurrent, there's just becoming a top current of people who are disappointed when they feel duped. Like, I didn't want to talk to an AI, but I wanted to talk to a real person. Oh man, an AI wrote this article in a magazine. Oh man, it's not valuable to me because a human didn't do it. I could have done it through AI. So there's this perception around this new thing of, where is it valuable? Where does it belong? Where is it not valuable? And you're absolutely right. It can be, I know it is to some perceived as a threat. I know it for a lot of my kids' teachers, it is perceived as a threat, and they say, don't use it. And this stemmed from a conversation, this one I was having with my husband yesterday, from an Instagram reel that said, no. This new thing, again, back to your curiosity, if we allow it and then push ourselves, it can actually make us better. And here's what the teacher said. She said, teachers, if you're in this world and you're not using AI, you're making a mistake because your students are using it. You know what a student can't do? They can't tell the AI to deliver their presentation for them.
Mm-hmm.
They have to get up there and they have to orate. They have to speak. And it just brought me so much happiness to my soul that no matter how brilliant intellectual AI gets, it will never do what a person can on stage.
And AI obviously can look. I've used ChatGPT to do all kinds of really cool things. I wanted to do research on. I wanted to understand about monetizing my YouTube channel and what that might look like. And I asked about some, big speakers and what might they be making and stuff. Honestly, in 10 minutes, Marianne, I had more information that would have taken me weeks of trying to pull from this source and parse it together. And it is really cool what AI can help you do. And it is a productivity tool. My time is valuable. I want to spend my time, speaking,
Yeah.
doing this
with people.
podcast, doing my TV show. If there are things that can be done by AI that will help me, look, I don't want AI sending out emails on my behalf. It could,
Oh, you're going to embark on too many journeys.
no. But say, you write it, give it to me as a draft. I'll decide whether I want to do that. Sure, no problem, right?
Yep.
I've written 3 books, but I'm a talker, not a typer. So I'm not having AI write my books. But if you're like, hey, here's how I write, can you write something for me? I then go in and put my own thing. Talking about teachers and AI and not liking it, I sit on the board of the high school I went to, and board was having a discussion about the use of AI and what to do about it, blah blah blah, and we had an English teacher goes, let me just say, student can try and use AI, but I know what their voice is. I know how they write, and AI cannot write exactly like a human. No matter how many samples you give them, there are those things that I, as a human, look and go, that wasn't written by that person.
Mm-hmm. It's almost like an instinct.
Well, it's your own voice, right?
Mhm.
Literally, I mean, it's written, but it's the same way that, look, AI could duplicate my voice and have me say bad things. And that's where AI scares me, where there are instances where AI has taken, oh, hey, here's this public figure, and all of a sudden they've said something really bad, and the person's like, I no, that wasn't me.
Oh,
And you're like,
it's done that and worse.
yeah,
And you want to go that into the image world, that these poor public figure people are having AI images distributed of them that are just horrific, and it's theft. It's theft of
yeah,
your, almost like of your identity.
yeah,
And
no,
this is back to where, and I think every audience member, including us, when we are on the audience, the point of, I think, any learning whatsoever is to learn to think for yourself, learn to judge for yourself. Even if you're not dealing with AI content, even if you're dealing with someone that's on the stage, a speaker, they are on a pedestal, they're in the limelight, they have all these accreditations or whatever, that doesn't mean everything that they say is gospel. And even if it is true, it doesn't mean it's necessarily applicable to you in that point in your timeline. So this
absolutely.
personal discernment, it is so essential that we develop that, and it comes through a lot of trial and error. And yes, I believe in hiring mentors and so forth. I 100% believe in that. But we also have to say, listen, and maybe this is revealing my issue with authority figures and so forth, but I am best served when I intake information, I ask about it, I dissect it, I ask about original source, I try it on, and I see what works.
Absolutely.
Regardless of where it comes from.
Right. Marianne, clearly you and I could talk. This could be a 4-hour podcast, but there's still more. Hold on. I got one more thing.
Let's do it.
I want to thank you so much. Truly an epic conversation.
Thank you so much. I apologize. My computer keeps giving me an alert. I've got a class coming up, so I've tried to shut it down, but it keeps
No. It's I didn't hear anything. You're all good. Well, Marianne, thank you so much for joining me today. How can people find you?
You know what? I just like it when people text me.
All right.
I'm all over on social, but I just keep my phone in my pocket. So if people text me, my phone number is 801-509-5495. Let's just talk person to person. And if you have questions or you want to get curious or just introduce yourself, if you like the vibe, just let's be friends and let's just start talking.
Absolutely. Well, I want to thank you so much for joining me. I want to remind everyone, if you're ready to begin your epic journey, go to epicbegins.com. And remember that epic choices lead to the epic life that you want.
Get your gift copy of the award-winning book, Epic Begins with One Step Forward, at epicbegins.com. That's a wrap on this episode of Epic Begins with One Step Forward with your host, Xander Sprague, best-selling author, internationally acclaimed public speaker, and licensed professional clinical counselor. To make your next conference or event epic, send an email to Xander at zander@epicbegins.com. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. Remember, epic choices, epic life.